Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about the secrets to using the right wrist in the golf swing. Now, this will be a little bit of a different video than we normally do. It's actually a compilation video of a few YouTube videos we've done that have really good tips and drills in it. I hope that you guys enjoy this style of video. At the end, let us know what you think. Enjoy. All right guys, before we dive into this video, I want to talk to you quickly about two things. Number one, we have launched our golf school dates for 2020 in Bethlehem, PA. We're going to go ahead and put a link in the description down below. If you'd like to come get some in-person coaching, I would certainly love to have you. Now, if you can't make it to Bethlehem for in-person coaching, we'd still love to work with you via CogornoGolf.com. That's our online community full of golfers like yourself and myself looking to improve. That's where you can send me your swing. I can help identify priorities, take your game to the next level. Most importantly, as a member of Cogorno Golf, you get access to our Facebook group where you can post that swing, get into the community, get into the conversations. You get access to everything we have, all of the master classes, the member library, the practice section, as well as the quick fix section. Would love to see you guys there. So during my backswing, in terms of how my wrists move, there's kind of two main functions we're going to focus on. The first part is my wrist can bend back towards extension or bend forward towards flexion. So if I just kind of look at my palm, if I bend my hand away from the target, that would be, we'll call that bent back or extended, or I can bend my palm kind of towards the target, that would be a flex position. Now, what I want you guys to understand is, in terms of this bent back or forward, bent back is our friend. Bent back is our friend from setup, all the way through the takeaway, all the way through the top, all the way through the downswing, and through impact. I want you to feel like your palm works down towards the ground. So if I do my takeaway here, I want right palm down towards the ground. Now, if I go back without any of that extension, my right palm would still be facing towards the target. You see that? So the only way for me to get my palm down towards the ground is for me to add this extension in. So I can feel that in my forearm as my palm goes towards the ground. Now, as I do that, if I did just that with no hinge motion at all, that would look something like this, pretty curled under with the face tilted down. But I'm also going to add a little bit of this hinge or thumb up. So I want palm down, thumb up, palm down, thumb up. So I go back, palm down, thumb up, puts me in my takeaway position. The point that I'm most concerned with there is getting this wrist position here where I have it bent back this way. So palm down towards the ground, thumb up here initially is going to be my feel, mainly palm down. Now when I take that to my next spot, which will be left arm parallel, the feel I want you to have is that that palm is facing towards the camera. Okay, so from here, if I go back, again, it depends on the grip. I don't want the palm facing this way. That'd get my left wrist too bent, my club face too open. I want my palm facing back towards the camera, which would make my left wrist flat and my face more neutral. So during the backswing, right, those are kind of the two main feels I want you to take from this. Unless you're someone who has the club face too drastically shut, if you already hit hooks or you're too shut going back, then maybe you don't want to do this as much. But for most people, you would improve your ball striking if you got these wrist angles correct. It'd make your club face more square or close to your path and would help you de-loft it. So I want palm down towards the ground, palm behind me towards the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rehearse that a couple times. Now, ideally, when I'm working here, I have my live view up, right? This would be a perfect time to have my live view, have my iPad or phone sitting right in front of me. I can see, hey, am I actually doing this or not? Some of you guys, a lot of you, are going to feel like you're going palm down and palm this way, and it's going to feel like Dustin Johnson, and you're going to look perfectly normal because you normally go the opposite way, and that's the point. But for these, we're doing the same thing. So I have my sand wedge, same deal. Right palm down towards the ground, right palm back away from me towards the camera. Let's go ahead and do that. Palm down, palm away. I want to talk a little bit differently about the wrist angles, how to practice them, why they're important, and maybe give you a little bit of a different perspective. What I see that happens is everyone really emphasizes the importance of a flat left wrist or lead wrist when you go and play. And me too, we just did a video on that not long ago. But not everyone can think about their left hand and left wrist and get that left wrist flat. Almost everyone leaves out the fact that we have another hand on the club. We have a trail hand or right hand on the golf club, and you training in how to use your right hand for a lot of you is going to work a lot better than trying to train in your left hand. So that's sort of the emphasis here, is training in your trail hand wrist conditions, not just the left wrist. But the reality is, when I hold on to this club, there's two hands on there. So what my right wrist does, my left wrist must follow, and vice versa. So if I were to have a club in my hand with my grip and my left wrist was flat like this, and I put my normal grip on there, my right wrist would be in a position where it's slightly bent backwards. So there'd be a little bit of angle here in my right wrist at the top. If I were to make my right hand, my right wrist perfectly flat like this, and I took my grip and added my left hand, that would automatically put my left hand into a cupped position. Can you see that there? Right hand flat means left hand cupped. That would be bad. If I took my right hand and I bent it back, so I made the back of my right hand get closer to the back of my forearm or palm up towards the sky, and I put the club in my hand like that with it bent back, took my left hand and matched it, automatically what does that do to my left hand? It makes it flat or slightly bowed. I can't possibly, if I take a normal grip, have my right wrist completely bent backwards like this. You should feel a little something here in your forearm. I can't possibly do that with a normal grip and not have my left hand flat or slightly bowed. If I take a normal grip, like so, like this, at address, my right hand and wrist is obviously pretty darn flat, right? So I need to go from completely flat to completely bent this way by the time I get to the top of my backswing. So from this angle, completely flat right wrist, completely bent right wrist at the top. And you see that puts my left arm or my left hand in a perfectly flat position, keeps my club face square. So some people like to do it right in the takeaway. If I go from a flat right wrist, and then by the time I get to first parallel, I already have my right wrist in a maximum bent back position. If you do that right in the takeaway, right wrist flat to bent, and just transport to that same angle all the way up to the top, you're perfect, you're set. Some people don't like to do it in the takeaway, and they feel it more gradually and just get it completely bent at the top, would look like this. Again, right wrist max bent back there. And then some people like to do it more in the transition. The reality is if I go up to the top, my right wrist is bent back as far as I can. If I come down during the downswing, watch this. If I straighten my right wrist out, what does that do to the shaft? It gets steeper, more vertical. It opens the club face up. If I go to the top and I keep my right wrist bent, what does that do to the shaft? Lays it down, puts it behind me, shallows it out, squares the club face up. Right wrist is bent all the way back, club behind me, face square. Do nothing else but straighten my right wrist out. Where's the club go? Outside opens the face. I'm gonna do nothing else but bend my right wrist back. Puts the club behind me and closes the face. Again, which one of these looks like a good player, here or here? It's this one, right? So even if you don't like doing it up to the top, max bend, wherever you're at the top, max bend it in transition. So go from wherever you're at, if it's somewhat bent, and bend it all the way in transition. And what is that gonna do? It's gonna shallow the shaft and square the club face up, right? And then heck, I'd do that all the way down into my impact position. If I get to impact, here's my right wrist perfectly flat, right? Shaft back, face neutral. If I bend my right wrist completely here and just transport that in, what does that look like? Shaft leaning forward, face square. Right wrist flat, not good at impact. Right wrist bent, very good at impact. The right wrist for a lot of you guys could be literally like a game changer and key to you hitting the ball more solid than you ever have before. Having the club face square, having your downswing swing direction right. None of you are gonna bend your right wrist back too much. You can't bend your right wrist back too much, ever. You can't do it too much here, you can't do it too much here, and you can't do it too much in transition. And if you got to impact with a right wrist that was completely bent and held it even past impact, other than 0.01% of you that's not good for, you would hit the ball freaking better. So if you can't do it with your left hand and your left wrist, do it with your right hand and right wrist. Maximum bend back. So I hope that makes sense. It's just a different way to do the same things. You guys have to do some things like this and train in your arms and hands. If you're not hitting the ball solid and good, you got to get out of this, take my hands out of it stuff. You got to train your arms and hands to hit the ball solidly. No doubt about it, when you measure good golfers, their right wrist, let's say at about the right thigh during the downswing, is bent back a lot. How much bent back? About as much as you can do it. How should you bend it back? No way in particular. Just bend it back, right? You should feel a little something in your forearm when you do it like that. When they're bent back here, let's say this, we'll call this a delivery phase. So it's bent back by the time they're, let's say, hands parallel to the thigh. From there to impact, is their right wrist still the same amount bent back? Is it more bent back? Is it less bent back? Well, if I just got done saying it's as bent back as it could be, does it get more bent back to impact? No, it's already as bent back as it could possibly be. So of course, they're going to lose some of that as they release the club. Of course, good players are bent back, a little bit less bent back, a little bit less bent back. Of course, they're releasing that. The problem is 9 out of 10 of you guys that are watching, your right wrist is not here by the time you get to your right thigh. It is already here. So should you, during the impact phase, feel like you're doing what good players are measured as, which is from here to let it release? I don't think so. I think that's a beautiful way to play golf if you're really good and your right wrist is already really bent back. But if it's not, you need to focus on getting it bent back by the time you get to your right thigh. That's the whole point of this. You don't hit it well, you don't have the opportunity to release it well if you don't get here in the first place. You guys following me with this? You have to have your right wrist bent back, period. How you do it, when you do it, depends on certain things, doesn't matter that much, depends on your grip, the timing. Do I care that much whether you do it early in your takeaway, at the top, in transition, or down here? Nope, not really. I just care that by the time you get to here, during the downswing, it's that bent back. And I would start the process of learning it like that. What I would do if I were you guys in the beginning is just preset that position and start learning how to hit shots with that. So if I took a normal setup, and I'll get back to what I went on a little, I don't know, 10-minute tangent there. I'll get back to what I was talking about before. I would, in the beginning, preset this position. What is this position? From face on, my hands are even with my right thigh, my left wrist is flat, my right wrist is bent back, my club face is tilted slightly down. We'll call this a delivery position. Hands are even with the thigh, left wrist flat, right wrist bent back, face slightly tilted down. And I would get used to, from here, learning how to hit shots with that position. Now, how do I go from here, delivery position, to impact and through impact? How do I get the club to the ball if I'm coming from here? Do I release my wrist angles? No. Do I just push my hands toward my arm out? No. Do I maintain more or less my wrist angles but open my body? Yes. I maintain my wrist angles more or less, but I open up my body. So I would get good. I would take a sand wedge, pitching wedge 9-iron. I would hit these, for me, probably like 80 to 100 yards from here, and I would get good at going from here, putting this, presetting this, adding a little bit of momentum and turning my body through and maintaining, yes, maintaining my bent right wrist. But Eric, that's what good players, they don't do that. They release that right wrist. You don't deliver it the same way. You need to over-exaggerate how your hands are here to here. It is okay for you to hold that wrist angle forever. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna preset, a little bit of momentum, and then I'm just gonna turn from there. And that's where I would start with and get used to doing that good. Well, Eric, I did that and I hit one or two bad. Do it better. Like, the problem's not doing the wrist angles like that. You're not gonna hit the ball bad because your right wrist was bent back and your left wrist was flat. I mean, think about how crazy that is. Like, you're never gonna hit a ball bad because of that. Maybe you didn't turn well, right? Okay, now you need to start recording yourself and giving yourself feedback. The point is you have to release it like that. Everything else really depends on other stuff. Okay, how much you do or don't do it with grip and such like that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later in the extended version. But I want you to get good from here, position this, a little bit of momentum, maintain that right wrist bent back, and turn as you go with it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Again, a little bit different than what our normal videos are like. If you did like this video, I'd recommend going back and watching the full videos. We'll put a little screenshot here on the screen so you can see which one those are. Even more information on how to use the right wrist can really help you with your ball striking. If you did like the video, do us a favor, really helps us out. If you click the like button down below, click the notification bell, and please subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.